Now, the topic before us is trade winds shifting, understanding equilibrium, surplus, and deficit in balance of trade. Before understanding what is balance of trade, we will have a brief overview of balance of payment. We have already learnt that balance of payment is a systematic record of all the economic transactions which take place between the residents of a country and the rest of the world during a specific period. That is, every country exports something from other countries in the shape of goods and services, and it also imports some goods and services from the rest of the world. We sometimes give aid on humanitarian ground to the rest of the world, and sometimes we receive the same. Sometimes we receive investments from the rest of the world, and sometimes we make investments. Sometimes we borrow from the rest of the world, and we also provide loans to some foreign countries. So all these economic transactions are recorded in balance of payments. You have already learned that balance of payments consists of three components. That is, balance of payment has three components, and there's that are current account, capital account, and financial account. Now here we are discuss about balance of trade. Now this current account, in the current account of balance of payment, we discuss export and import of goods, export and import of services, unilateral transfers. Unilateral transfers are one-time transfers. That is, we do not get anything in return. When we give aid to other countries on humanitarian ground, we do not receive anything in return. Then how universal transfers are recorded in balance of payment? When we give food, medicines on humanitarian ground, an estimation of the value of food or medicines is made and recorded in current account of balance of payment. And then income from investment. We may have made some investments in foreign countries, and we may be receiving income in the shape of, say, rent, dividend, profit, and at the same time foreigners might have invested in our country, and they may be receiving payment in respect of their investments in the shape of dividend. So all these transactions are recorded here, income from investments. So now we are discussing about balance of payment. These two, export and import of goods and export and import of services, are related with the concept of balance of trade. That is, balance of trade is the difference between export and import. This is balance of trade. The value of goods and services which are imported minus the value of goods and services which are imported from the rest of the world. This is BOT. This is the broader definition of balance of trade. There is also a narrow definition of balance of trade in which only export of goods and import of goods is taken into account. This is the narrower definition. Now we will read what is written. Balance of trade refers to the difference in value between a country's total exports and imports of both goods and services over a specific period, usually year. That is, whatever we export during 1 year to the rest of the world regarding goods and services, and whatever we import from the rest of the world, the difference between the two is known as balance of trade. This is the traditional and broader definition. There is also, as already discussed, there is also a narrower definition which takes into account only the exports and imports of goods only. The narrower definition may be used in specific contexts where our focus is only on tangible goods. Tangible goods means the goods which can be seen, touched. Goods are always also known as visible items. That is, they can be seen, touched, and measured. Balance of trade on goods is also known as balance of visible trade. Visible means all those items which can be seen, touched, or measured. So, narrower definition of balance of trade is also known as balance of visible trade, BOVT, or merchandise balance. Merchandise means goods balance. So here, this is the formula for calculation of balance of trade: exports minus imports. If we take into consideration the narrow definition of balance of trade, then it is written balance of trade goods only is equal to export of goods minus import of goods. It can also be written as balance of visible trade. Here we will only take into account the export and import of goods only. Now, here is an example to understand the balance of trade. Suppose a country is exporting goods and services worth $100 billion, and at the same time it is importing goods and services to the tune of $90 billion. What is the balance of trade? As per broader definition, balance of trade is exports, which is here 100 billion, minus $100 billion minus $90 billion. So what is balance? $10 billion. So balance of trade is $10 billion. Here it is surplus because exports are more than imports. If we take other export of goods, here is only BOT goods. Here exports are 80. What is import? 85. Then what is balance? It is minus 5 billion. Here it is deficit balance of trade because imports are more than exports. Now, balance of trade may be trade surplus, trade deficit, or trade balance. We can also call it positive balance of trade. This is deficit balance of trade, and this is zero balance of trade. We will understand this concept with the help of example. Suppose exports are 100 US dollars and imports are 80 US dollars. We are not taking here the example in billions. To keep the example simple, we are simply taking it as US dollars. So here, what is balance of trade? Balance of trade is exports minus imports. So 100 minus 80 is equal to 20. So 20 is the balance of trade. So here, what is exports are more than imports. So when exports are more than imports, it is trade surplus. That is, the country is having trade surplus, or we can also call it positive balance of trade when exports are more than imports. Here in the second example, here exports are less as compared to imports. So 80 minus 100, exports are to be taken first and then we are to take imports. 80 minus 20, it becomes minus 20. Here exports are less than imports. So it is trade deficit position. The country is having trade deficit because its the value of its imports is more as compared to exports. It is also known as negative balance of trade. So here 100 is equal to 100. 100 minus 100 is equal to 0. Exports are equal to imports. So here what is the position? It is trade balance. Trade balance or zero BOT occurs when exports are equal to imports. But in the real world, this situation of trade balance, that is zero BOT, zero balance of trade, rarely occurs. When we are talking about when we are talking about trade balance, it means there is an approximate balance that exports and imports are roughly equal to each other. If we say that exports are 100 and imports are 99.5, so here there is negligible difference between the two. We are not taking the figures in billions, we are taking only a small figure. So when will be talking in say billions, we will be saying it is 99.9. So here the difference between exports and exports is negligible. So in case of trade balance, when the difference between exports and imports is negligible, it is regarded as trade balance. In the real world, exports and imports are rarely equal to each other, and even if they are equal to each other, this trend cannot remain continue for a long term. USA is having trade deficit for the last so many years. Why? Because the currency of USA, which is dollar, is very strong. So the people of the rest of the world do not buy the do not import the goods from USA because the value of the currency is more and the prices are the goods are more. Further, the domestic saving rate in USA is further USA in USA many of the industries get their products manufactured from other countries because the cost is less. So after manufacturing, they import those goods and sell those in USA. So due to these reasons, there is trade deficit in USA. When we are talking about balance of trade, it must be remembered that trade balance of trade is just a one a picture of the whole economic picture of the economy. Was only one side. When we are talking about the economic position of the country, we will have to take in take into account many other things such as exchange rate, investment attractiveness, etc. We hope you might have understood the concept of balance of trade in very simple language. Thanks for watching. If you like our course, please spare some time to give a star rating to our course.